Hello everyone, you're watching a special broadcast on Oscars on Times Now. India and Oscars have a very interesting relationship, and this year is no different. This time, a Gujarati language film, Chhello Show, titled Last Film Show, is all set to roar in Oscars. This movie was picked as India's official entry to the Oscars over popular choices such as S.S. Rajamouli's RRR, Vivek Agnihotri's The Kashmir Files, and R. Madhavan's Rocketry. Joining me is the co-producer of Chhello Show, Dheer Momaya. Many thanks to speaking to Times Now, Dheer.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Firstly, let me congratulate you. Your film Chhello Show is nominated for Oscars. How is the feeling? Are you on cloud nine?
Absolutely. I think, we're all really honored and excited that we get to represent the country this year. It's also a big responsibility because India being such a passionate, film-loving nation, there's a lot of people's hopes and dreams that are tied into the campaign and into this race towards getting that award. Of course, it's been many years since India has got a nomination, so we're quite excited. We have some incredible partners internationally. We have Orange Studios, who's our sales agent. They do international sales for us. They've won 8 Oscars in the last 5 years for films like The Artist and The Father. And our US distributors, Samuel Goldwyn Films, have been nominated 4 times and won 1 foreign language Oscar in the last 3 years. So we're in good hands, and both of them have publicly made statements that they really feel that Chhello Show is a strong contender for the foreign language section this year.
When you were making the movie, did it ever occur that this will make into the Oscars?
I think that's a good question. So when most filmmakers make movies, we don't really think about the awards or the laurels, because at the end of the day, we're in service of the audience, and it's our job and it's our intention to get as many people in the world to watch the film as possible. So, what the Oscars does, or what any of these great milestones do, is that it sets up a situation where there's a lot more conversation around the film. There's a lot more interest and intrigue in the film. So in that sense, it brings us to our eventual goal of finding as wide a distribution as possible. But you don't really think about, the Oscars or any specific award in that sense. However, what we do know is that the film has traveled really well internationally. It's been distributed in 5 countries already. It's come out in cinemas in Spain, in Germany. It's been dubbed in 12 languages. It's going to come out in Japan with Shochiku, and it's going to come out in Italy with Medusa. So, the sense that, that we've already been able to achieve a fairly wide international audience, a non-diaspora audience, is quite interesting because it is one of our goals to take Indian stories to the world.
The time has changed, and as you rightly pointed out, that while making the movie, you do not consider a moment where this will get nominated to some prestigious awards. But do you think the time has changed, and does India still needs validation from Oscars? What does Oscars right now mean to India?
So I think that, I don't think India needs validation from the Oscars because we have our own awards. We have our national awards. We have our film fairs. We have our own internal recognition, which I think remains to be the highest form of recognition and validation that a filmmaker should get from India. The Oscars, we tend to forget, is an American award ceremony. It's primarily for American Hollywood English language films. There's one tiny section in the whole ceremony and in the whole presentation that's given to foreign language films. So this year, what they call international films. So in that sense, it is something that it's meant to be celebrated by America. However, you cannot deny that all of us grew up watching the Oscars, watching some of our favorite stars give speeches at the Oscars, receive, the award, and that golden statue is sort of etched in all of our memory. And I feel like the fact that India produces so many films every year, it's I think it's the highest producing nation of cinema. I do feel that we need some sort of international recognition, and I think that India is really having its moment in the sun. There's also my friend Shaunak Sen has made a documentary called All That Breathes that won the main prize at Sundance and won the main prize at Cannes, and that will be competing in the documentary section this year. So I do feel like as many people who can compete and bring back an award, it'll be an award for the country. You know, it's no more just our film; it's really the country's film.
Well, I hope this is a proud moment for every Indian. And you have mentioned that your film has released at several prestigious film festivals, and not to forget, your film has just made into India yesterday when it has released, finally, after much awaited. How is the audience reacting? How is India reacting to an Oscar-nominated movie?
It's been incredible, you know, to see that a Gujarati film has, because, you know, sometimes we think about Indian films crossing over to the US or crossing over to Western markets, but it's difficult for Indian films to cross over within our own country, right? While we've seen a resurgence of Tamil and Telugu cinema and Kannada cinema and Malayalam cinema, which is crossing over to the north, our northern films haven't really made, you know, cross that barrier. But with Chhello Show, we're really happy that, you know, the audiences have been coming in hordes. On our first day, which was, instead of releasing on Friday, we released on Thursday evening, because we did the first day last show, because the name is Last Film Show. And also we released in only selected 95 cinemas on Thursday at 95 rupees in a nod to the 95th Oscar. And I think that played really well with audiences. And we got a much wider audience than expected, because when ticket prices are high, they of course alienate a few of the, you know, a bit of the population that needs slightly more accessible cinema-going experience. And we saw huge occupancies in the cinemas that we released in. I'm in Gujarat right now. We did screenings in Chennai. We did screenings in Hyderabad and in Kochi. And everywhere we had standing ovations. We had a huge support from the local industry. We had a huge support from influencers. Just in fact, we were discussing this. It was quite funny. We have 3 or 4 screens in Hyderabad, and all of them have been, you know, on Thursday night, all completely sold out, and people were reaching out to us on Instagram asking for tickets. But so it's been quite heartwarming to see that response.
I'm sure this must have been heartwarming, and I don't think the 95 rupees ticket price must have played a major role in attracting people. I mean, there's a lot of buzz around the movie, and after being nominated to Oscars, being recommended by international film critics, praising this Indian movie, which is actually in Gujarati, I don't think we need much better recognition for this movie. You know, coming back to my question, many Indian movies like Mother India, Salaam Bombay, Lagan have made it to Oscar. But somehow they failed to win an award. Do you think Chhello Show will break this league?
I think we have a real opportunity this year. All the films that you mentioned are beautiful films, some of my favorite films, and I truly believe that they did deserve to win as well. But I feel like times have changed, you know. Earlier, to get American members of the AMPAS to watch subtitle films was quite difficult. You know, they were so used to watching English language films. However, after the pandemic and the onset of streaming, there's been a huge acceptance of foreign language cinema, even in the United States. Like, you've seen what Parasite has done a couple of years ago. And generally, I think that the American audiences and American Academy members have really opened up to, you know, really enjoying foreign language cinema. And it's not that foreign language cinema didn't exist there. You always had Italian, French, you know, Korean films that have been accepted. But I do believe that this is the year that India has a real shot, not just with us. I think there's been a general furor and a general, you know, acceptance of Indian culture. There's been a lot of diversity that's been added into the Academy. There's quite a few Indian members now who get to represent their votes for the foreign language category. So I do feel like, you know, if we support each other and, you know, we have the support of the nation, we'll be able to go all the way.
Well, rightly pointed out. And there is a buzz also around how other movies who were actually going to get the nomination but didn't go. How do you see the chatter surrounding the much talked about movie which has also created buzz in the West, the RRR? How do you think Chhello Show will have a better shot than RRR, and how do you see the fans critiquing it ki this should have been in the Oscars and not the Chhello Show? How do you see that critic?
I mean, I think that fans, you know, at the end of the day, when the announcement came out, India had not had the opportunity to watch Chhello Show. So it's only right that, fans have their own opinions. Like I said earlier, India is a very passionate country and people have very passionate views about films that they love. So we totally accept it. At the end of the day, the FFI, the Film Federation of India, and a 17-member jury was together and they unanimously voted for Chhello Show. So all we can do is respect that, the people on that jury who've all been national award winners have seen something in the film. And we know that, our focus, while it was a brief moment of celebration for us, we quickly got to work because our focus now needs to be showing the film to as many Academy voting members as possible. Our partners in India, Roy Kapoor Films, Sid Roy Kapoor has been absolutely incredible in the India release. And we feel like with Samuel Goldwyn Films, who's our US distributor, which is a legacy company. Samuel Goldwyn was one of the forefathers of Hollywood. And the CEO, Peter Goldwyn, has come out and made some really incredible statements about the film in the US, in the Hollywood press. And I do feel like once we start our campaign, which is happening already as we speak, there should be a huge uptake on our film.
You pointed out Siddharth Roy Kapoor investing in the movie. How important do you think it is for the big producers to invest in such unconventional movies? How do you think that impacts such a small story? How do you impact such big distributors coming along to support a story which is an unconventional movie and which does not have a big star cast, but still manages to make a big impact? I mean, the Chhello Show has gained impressive support from international and in Indian media. How do you see the importance of bringing out big investors to join in the small story shows that are being made in India? I mean, India has a lot of potential in the world of movie making. How do you see it?
I think it's very important. Like you said rightly, Sid has had an incredible career. He's supported some incredible movies and, pushed out the idea of not just supporting completely mainstream cinema. Right when you say that the film doesn't have stars, but I don't think it's a small film. I think that the word small or indie or art films have been created in the business world, in the business of cinema world, but they shouldn't really be impacting viewers' choices or ideas of what films are. Because at the end of the day, what we're facing today in a post-pandemic and in a post-streaming world is that there is no urgency to go to the cinema. Viewers earlier had an urgency where they had their favorite star who would come, on screen maybe 3 or 4 times a year. But now most of these stars are also very overly exposed on social media. They're overly exposed on television. So that, and while we all love our stars and we'll always go to watch star-driven films, and where our favorite stars are, in it, I feel like there's been a real renaissance and there's been a real demand from people of great content. So while we don't have a star, a studio, or a streamer, we have the fourth and the most important S, which is the story. And I feel like, in some sense, the post-pandemic world and the post-streaming world has also created a new kind of demand in Indian viewers, because now suddenly you have Indian viewers who are watching Spanish shows and Korean shows and Korean dramas and American shows, all dubbed or subtitled in Indian languages. So I feel like their demand also now has not just been limited to stars. It's gone beyond that. It's gone diving into stories and finding a way to be engaged. Because at the end of the day, as filmmakers today, we're not competing with other films. We're competing with games. We're competing with Instagram. We're competing with TikTok, Takatak. So, people's attention is going to diverge from cinema. And they always said that, they said that television brought the death knell to cinema. Then they said that streaming brought the death knell to cinema. And then they said that the pandemic would bring the death knell to the cinematic experience. But I feel like cinema will survive and we'll find a way to bring people back into the theaters and have this communal experience of sitting with other people in a dark room and just enjoying a film and laughing and crying and, having a cathartic experience together. So I feel like that's our responsibility as filmmakers to, create content that brings with it an urgency to come and watch a film in the cinema.
Dheer, you talked about how the pandemic has changed the cinematic appearance and how the audience now watches movies. I have a very interesting insight out of this about this pandemic time when the Chhello Show team actually decided not to even edit it or make this movie. What was that incident? How did pandemic actually trigger this point that Chhello Show, which has now been nominated to Oscars, would not have been even made? What happened during that time?
I think, we finished, good question. We finished filming just before the pandemic began. And we were meant to start editing in March, April 2020. And I feel like, when the world went to what it went through, the images that we were seeing coming out of hospitals in Italy, coming out of hospitals in Delhi, in Bombay. That time it wasn't that much in India, but even internationally. I feel like all the people working on the film, we couldn't find the inspiration to make a film like this, because at the end of the day, it is a very positive film. It's a family film. It's a film about food, friends, films, and the future. But without that strong future in our head, we didn't find the inspiration. But I think somewhere what happened was, which you'll see when you watch the film, that it's really a story about human perseverance, and it's the story about how a human being can follow his dreams or follow her dreams and believe in oneself to overcome all obstacles. So I think in lieu with that, and in line with our protagonist's journey, the director Pan Nalin and our editors found the courage to start working a few months after the pandemic began, and remotely in few different countries, because some of our post-production was happening in France, some of the work was happening in Chennai, some of it was happening in Bombay. But using technology and sort of remote processes, we mustered up the courage to edit the film and, create it and finally put it out. And we were quite sure, I think, the director Nalin Pan, who's one of my most incredible mentors and an absolute inspiration to most filmmakers of our generation, he was quite clear, and we were quite clear that we did not want to give this film directly to a streaming platform. We did not want it to go to television directly. We did not even want to do a lot of film festivals that time were having online, festivals. But we said we'll wait. We will find the right time and the right place to have our premiere. So when Tribeca International Film Festival, Robert De Niro's film festival, invited us to open the spotlight section, it was the first time that they invited an Indian film to open the spotlight section of their festival. And they confirmed that our premiere would happen in a real massive screen on the Hudson River with 500 people in attendance. Then we were sure that that's going to be our premiere date. And that's when we rushed to finish the film for that.
I think you chose the right moment, right time and right place. The buzz has actually snowballed into a massive, massive praise from each and every section of the film fraternity. Also, I would like to take out this point. When the movie has not been even released, there was some speculations or rumors, I must say, that this movie is a copy of another film. Would you like to share that point of view? What is exactly the controversy about?
I mean, I think that, again, like I said, people can have any opinion that they want to. We know what we've made. We know that, the Robert De Niro's Film Festival or any of the incredible distributors like Orange Studio, Samuel Goldwyn Films, or the awards that we got nominated for in Beijing, in China, or our distributors in Taiwan or Italy, none of them would have ever bought or selected a film or acquired a film if it was a copy of anything. So we in our hearts knew that there's nothing like that. Of course, there were some comparisons made by some people on Twitter and online, and people have the right to express their opinions. If they feel that, that's great. Our only point and our only suggestion to everyone who feels that is to go and watch the film, and you'll understand very quickly what the film is and the originality of the film. It's also important to note that the film is an autobiographical story of the director. We shot in locations very close to where he grew up, in a small, tiny, really remote sort of countryside of Kathiawar. So it doesn't get more original than that. So when you watch the film, you'll realize that.
Well, I'll let the movie do the talking and the air. I would like to ask you, a very painful incident has also happened just days before the release of the film. One of the child actor, Rahul Kohli, passed away at just the age of 10 after battling with cancer. How is the team coping up with this news?
So it's been, while we've been celebrating certain things, it's also been a real heart wrencher, because all the boys became very close to the crew. They became like family. We had to respect the family's wishes to not make any public announcements. Actually, we didn't want to. It's just that some, people from the media found out and they started writing about it, which is why we eventually got asked and we had to talk about it. It's been heartbreaking because his performance in the film is really incredible. He would have had a really bright future.
And he played the character of Manu in the movie, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, he played the character of Manu, which is the best friends of the lead character, Samay. And I feel like what's been the most heartwarming for me to see as a producer is that the whole unit came together, one, to help him while he was getting treated through his treatment. And even after this, we've been with his family. Yesterday was the Dheer Momaya, as they call it. Today, we're literally leaving Ahmedabad to go to Rajkot to do a special screening for him and his family, and his friends. And I feel like, in some sense, I hope that he gets remembered and lives on, as our little Manu. And people remember him for the incredible contribution and work that he's done for this film.
Well, I wish you all the best for this movie, and I hope India wins Oscar this year. Thank you, Dheer. Thank you so much for speaking to Times Now.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.